Okay, have your storyboard thumbnail page ready. You're going to be needing two of them. We're going to go through about 25, 27 shots and then some posing as well. So we're doing Seinfeld, the jacket. You've seen the sequence previously of what that opening Act 1 is about. Now we're going to take a look at it and take it apart shot by shot. So the first image you need to do is this one that we're looking at right now. And this is our outside establishing shot. The camera is across the street, straight on, and it's establishing that we're in a men's clothing store. So again, I'm going to be moving forward and pausing, but you'll more than likely have to review this video and pause it at my pauses for even longer to get your images down. Okay, so getting this one down, we're not going to number this one, the next one. Once we're inside and we have that sequence, we're going to start numbering. Okay, so we'll go to the first sequence. So here we go. Here is an inside establishing shot. So the camera, again, is kind of center into the room, and we can see where the contents of the room is and the composition of our two main characters plus a salesman. So we want to indicate that in the panel for composition. And in a lot of ways, we're going to be looking at how the camera is going to be changing position, and we'll analyze that at the end with a floor plan. Okay, so that's our shot one, and we'll move forward. And here is our shot two. So you can see the cameras move significantly. That in our previous shot, we had Elaine facing us at the camera at the front, and then she turned her back on us looking at Jerry. Now this camera angle is showing her three-quarter front of her looking at Jerry. So that camera has moved a fair bit to the side. So composition-wise, it's trying to figure out where we are. We can see a mirror in the background and ties on the wall, and then here's the clothing rack just in the foreground on the lower right. So again, you can pause this as long as you need to get those images now. Here we go. Here's our next shot. This is shot three of where we are at this point. And that camera is moved quite a bit, or is a different camera, quite a bit to the right of our interior here, and looking at the wall on the left and seeing Jerry almost straight on three-quarter view looking to the right. So it's getting that composition down and working that out, and the pose. Okay, we'll go on to our next shot. So here is shot four with Elaine. We're looking at her kind of from the same camera, except it is kind of moving with her as she's moving over to where Jerry, getting closer to where Jerry is. What it does do in this shot, and again, it's looking at composition, but what we do have in this shot is we're being introduced to a third character in the background. We have a shopper back there looking around. And that could be just by incidence. That's part of composition and making the shot look realistic in a case with live action here. But it's going to be more significant later in this sequence where this character will interact with the two. But seeing how early that they introduce that character. We then cut to here's Jerry again. Let me get a good pose. There we go. Here we go. So this is very similar to shot three, but this is shot five. And looking at that composition, same camera as three. The background, everything should be the same. It's a pose change. So we'll take a look at our next shot. Oh, hang on. You know what? We're going to do a pose. Yeah, so that last one, pose, or scene five, the first one is pose 1 of 2. Here we're going to do pose 2 of 2. Let's take a look at that. Yeah. Oops, sorry. I'm just going to go back, and you can pause on this one. I thought maybe he looked up. But anyways, here in live action, interesting when, you know, this shot 5-second pose is the characters are doing something. And, you know, how they put the set together is based on story and getting the characters to do something natural. So they are in a clothing store. So they're not just standing there speaking lines to each other, they're doing things. And here Jerry is got a coat in one hand that he's ready to try on, but then he noticed a prop on the table, and that is the tie rack. And he makes a gag, a visual gag about it being a tie car wash. So this is where script and visual kind of really work together, and something to be thinking about when you're doing your stories. Now we'll go to shot 6. And here we have this character that we saw in the background before. She just didn't appear out of nowhere. She was established beforehand in the background in one of the shots, so she just didn't pop and confuse the audience. Got to kind of set that up. So shot 6, more complicated. It's kind of an establishing shot again, except from an angle. It's because we can see the corner of the room. Our very first shot was straight on under the room. This one's looking over from the left to the right, so we could have a different perspective. So in your storyboard frames that you're drawing, give some indication of background and perspective so you can understand where the camera is positioned and the camera changes between shots. Okay. So, again, you can pause this video as long as you want to get this image down. I'm moving on to shot 7, and here it is. And again, this is all in real time. So our animation, when you're doing this for animation, has to be similar. That we need shots to hook up, that the poses are the same from one shot to the next shot, and so it's a linear storytelling, and we're not jumping all over the place. It's continuity that's going to keep viewers understanding what's happening from shot to shot. So here's shot 7, one pose, and the character here, our third character, is speaking with Elaine, and that's to establish the book she's been carrying. That's a prop that is well displayed, white book against her burgundy jacket here, so that you know, she spots it and refers to it. Again, big plot point advancing the story. So that was shot 7. Let's see where we go for the next one. Shot 8. We're back where we were in shot 6, kind of showing the relationship to all of the characters. Dialogue kind of dictates why we're cutting. So we had that third character speak, so we went in close to where she was with Elaine, and now Jerry's speaking. So could have gone to a close-up to him talking, but probably a good idea to go to this establishing shot to see the relationship between those characters. And note the pose. He's now getting that jacket off the hanger and going to be trying it on. So again, they're all doing something. They're there for a purpose, and the story builds from there. Now, if we go back, we're back to this character and Elaine. So this is shot 9, similar to shot 7 in background and composition, but it's continuing these characters. So again, we're using this camera because we're kind of over the shoulder of Elaine and having that 3/4 front view of this character, because she's the focus. She's the one that we're listening to or seeing speak. So the whole composition, background, the characters, the relation between the two, these are things to be taking a look at and getting down in your thumbnail. So here's a new shot. Camera's moved again, kind of like shot 3, except this one now is shot 10, and it's over the shoulder of our third character here. But it's to frame Elaine, since she's the one that's going to be speaking at this point or reacting. So we want to see that clearly. Now we're going to go to 11. And here we are, that further shot, long shot of seeing all 3 characters. And we can see Now that we cut back, Jerry's got the jacket on. So he's been doing something in the meantime that we've been focusing on these two characters. So we're advancing the progression of the action here, which are things to be thinking about for when you're going to be storyboarding and you don't have real characters and you want to set things up and tell the story as fluently as possible. Where we go from here, we have shot 12, which is the same as 10. Same setup. And again, we're focusing on Elaine. Then we're jumping back to 13, which is the same as 11, as well as 8 and 6. And what happens here in this one, again, you could be copying this one down for that shot 13. Or is it 11? I lost track. No, it's 13. Is that this third character exits. We see the character, and that's why we went to this further shot. We can see that third character exit the scene. Now from here, so the camera's doing a little bit of adjustment pan. So here we've cut to shot 14. Again, similar to our shot 5 and 3, where we're close on Jerry before. He's now wearing the jacket, so something maybe to put down for continuity-wise in your thumbnail. Now we'll move on from here. So 15. So that one's the same as shot 9, the last time we used this shot, and that was getting closer to Elaine and seeing her. But now we have Jerry 3/4 back in this shot. The composition between the two of them. A little bit of adjustment pan and move here to work that out. So we got a different composition. This is still 15. It could be worked out as another pose for 15 because there was a camera move. We're going to be avoiding those when you start doing your films, but it is something that is done often, but not totally necessary. We can cut and make these work. As we took a look at the last one, when we looked at Peep, we looked at shots without having pans. Okay, so I'm going to keep going until this shot is over. And now we've gone to 16, which is the same as the 14 shot. And again, the posing difference is Jerry's now taken the jacket off and is putting it back on the hanger. So it's looking at that continuity of the posing from shot to shot. So we have a longer shot here. So this is one big long shot. Now here's something important. And I'm just going to back up a bit and take a look. So what's significant about this shot? And this shot, if I've figured out where we're at this point, trying to think where we are. I might have gotten a little lost on here. 19, 18, 19. Let me see. Well, our next shot. Hopefully you're keeping track of where we are. This should be, maybe we're at shot 20. No, we're not there yet. I might have skipped one here in my taking a look. But what's significant in here, we want to take this, it's continuation of our last shot here, which is 16, definitely at 16 here, is that this is a second pose. And what's important is the orientation of the characters. Let me just go back and we take a look at this shot. We can see this shot started with Elaine on the right and Jerry on the left. And what happens on this next pose for this shot is they've switched. So important that this is a second pose where we see them switch position. Because now the orientation that Elaine's on the left and Jerry's on the right. And then we're going to continue with that, you'll notice in the next shots, so that, we've let the audience in on the switch of the pose. We can't have that off screen. It's one of those composition things that will confuse the audience. Okay, so I'm going to move on here. And now this one is 17. Yeah, this is where I got myself a little confused in my numbers. Uh, we have the mirror in the background. So this is the same as back when we were looking in that side shot of Elaine after our establishing shot. And just the composition. We see the mirror, the ties, and the rack in the foreground. So same as that first shot that we saw of Elaine from this angle, which was shot 2. Using the mirror, we see, when we introduce Dory, we see another salesperson back in here. So again, the props they put in the room are being used to effect. Let's go on from here. So big pose. So this should be the second pose for shot 17. The other one where he's looking, he kind of miming that he was stabbed in the back. So again, using posing to get the idea across. Didn't say you stabbed me in the back. It was a gesture, so we get that. Now he's looking at a jacket, and you can see that he's really put his arm outwards, and he's showing the jacket well away from his body. So it's a good silhouette pose that you can kind of see what's going on without the detail. So these are all important. So again, pose 2 of shot 17. Now we're shot 18. And we're back to our very first shot, interior shot, where we've established everything. Now, again, we're seeing the relationship between the two characters. Every so often, cutting back to that establishing shot so we can see where the characters have gotten to in the relationship. So this is really significant, showing us that Elaine's on the left now and Jerry's on the right. Okay, a little bit of compensation here on the shot. It really is. Okay, so here's going to be our next shot. So this is 19. So slightly different from the angle on that mirror before. We have more of the background on the left, so we can see this painting and a table with some sweaters and things on it. But here's where they really made use of the mirror in our composition. We have 3/4 back of Jerry and Elaine, but we can see Jerry's face and expression in the mirror. So that's significant and important that the staging of this worked well in using that prop in the as the mirror. Okay, so that's shot 19. Here is shot 20. So this one is right up against the wall, the right wall on this set. And we're seeing really clear composition here of Elaine's expression. And the great thing about Seinfeld is, especially as the seasons progress, they became almost cartoon characters, very exaggerated. And Elaine's character was great for these big expressions and even poses. So something to take note, to draw this one up. And think about this when you're going to be storyboarding your own stories and such. Move forward. All expressions here. You could do more poses of just expressions. But here we go. We actually have a cut here. So 21. So we moved over to the left. Where the camera's changed position even more, because we can see the corner of the room now. We saw this painting. Now we can see this one and a chair back here. And the mirror is quite a bit to the right. So we're not seeing the reflection of the two of them so much. But they're 3/4 view to the camera, so we can see them and we can see the conversation. Our next one is shot 22, and we're back to the previous shot, that composition. And again, the expression on Elaine's face is priceless. We move forward. And here we go. We cut again. So this shot 23. And again, the camera's moved again. So it's not quite the same as 21 or even 19 when we were here. It's, just adjusted so we can, we're more focused on that mirror and the characters. So the composition has changed. So here's the biggie. So this is pose 2 for 23. And that is that we've seen the characters switch back. So we're back where originally were, where Elaine's on the right and Jerry's on the left. So again, they showed it in a scene. Really important that you show the transition of the relationship between the characters. If they're moving around and changing, we want to make sure we have a shot that clearly shows that to the audience so we're not confused. So shot 23, pose 2 of 2. Here we go, 24, where we're seeing the close-up of, over the shoulder of Elaine, and we're really focused on Jerry and him looking at the liner of his jacket. So maybe that's a good pose here so you could see that. So you can pause at either one of these and get that pose down. Okay, so let's go back. Here we are. We have, let me just move forward a bit. Shot 25, we're seeing them in front of the mirror again. But look in the mirror. We can see the original salesman now finished looking in the back and coming out. So, kind of got a hint that he's coming there and he just didn't pop out of nowhere. So just carefully crafting and introducing the characters in a way that is not jarring or confusing. Okay, so that's 25. Let's go over here. 26. Is this 26? I'm just trying to see where I'm at. Yeah, so this one's 26 for sure. And that pose, let's just see what happens there. Looks good. And now, I believe there's a camera move here, but maybe we'll treat this as another pose. So here is 26 pose 2. And again, this could have been a cut. So it could have been shot 27, but we'll treat it as 26 and a second pose. And we definitely, the camera is widened so that we can see our sales character back in the shot and that he's very clear and he can deliver his line. Okay, so that's the end of the sequence. I've got one more shot I'm going to show, and that's the transition from this end of Act 1 and into the next one. And here we go. He's convinced he's going to buy this jacket. What happens here, we can see a cross dissolve. And then, so it's not a cut. We've had cuts. This is the first time we had a cross dissolve, and we end up exterior of Jerry's apartment. So that cross dissolve indicates that this is later that day, that night. It could be the next day or later that week. If it's significant, we'll try and spell that out. But this definitely tells us that from our very first shot, it was at the clothing store and it was daylight. This one is nighttime or evening, and we're in a different location. So we have those establishing shots to let us know where we're at. Okay, so this one's a different sequence. This would put us at 27, I believe. So that should be completing your thumbnails. If you go through this, fill those out, and submitting those 2 thumbnail pages with that information. So now you're going to need a blank piece of paper. What I want us to do is to copy over, and I'll go over this image that I need you to copy. And this is a floor plan of the clothing store that Jerry and Elaine are at. So what I've drawn here is a wall on the left, and just looking at the set and how it was constructed. So there is a wall on the back. It indents here, and this is a clothing rack. You will see that there's suits and sports jackets along there. There is a bit of a wall here. It comes out, and then there is a curtain, like a dressing room back in here. There's another bit of a wall. There is a light stand here, another curtain opening, and then that back wall is finished here. Then we have a lounge chair here that we can see in the corner of that room. we have our right wall, which will come down. And next to the chair, we have a table that had some sweaters and things on it. There's a picture on this wall, same as there's a picture back here. And again, it's just really sorting out what's in the room here so we can track where the camera movement has gone on, which is the idea behind this floor plan. And then here is that stand-up mirror over here. And over here is the edge of the stage. So in sitcoms, like Seinfeld, often filmed in front of a live audience, but they are sets. So, yeah, my little indication of audience heads here. Just so we got an idea of where the front of the stage is. So it's not unlike, you know, these sitcoms that are filmed are not unlike a stage play. So we do have the edge of the stage and then the set. We have the right wall, the left wall, right wall, and the back wall, and then setting everything up. So what we have here is that table, which is centralized. It does have some ties on it. And then we have that tie rack that Jerry makes use of as a prop. You know, there is a carpet there, not that it's that significant. What is significant up here is this clothing rack at the very front of the stage here, of which there are coats this way and this way. It's kind of like a clothing cube, of which there are 4 sections that are there. Same over here, and another one, of one of which Jerry picks out a jacket and tries it on. Okay, so we just want to get the floor plan worked out and understanding where everything is. And then I want to go through shot by shot where the camera movement went. And again, I'm just going to do it here. You can refer back to your thumbnail, the shots. I'm going to use the same shot numbers and everything, explaining where it is. You can refer to your thumbnail so you have a better understanding of the movement of the camera and where things went. So what I need to find out staging wise here is that we have Elaine here looking at this clothes rack, and we have Jerry over here. And then there is another salesman in that opening shot. So where's that opening shot? It's out here in the audience so we can see the whole stage. So here is our first camera for our first shot. So that's camera 1. So what happened after that, and again, this takes in that whole shot so that we can see everything. Establishing shot, we know where everything's at. So where we go from here, we saw that Elaine turned from this position and looked over at Jerry. So the camera moved so that we could keep her face in the shot. So where that camera went, and let me see, I'm just going to erase this a little bit because that camera kind of ends up right over here. So that's shot 2, so that we can see Elaine and the change in the surroundings here. So after that, you know, we cut to Jerry so we can see what he's doing, but we're pretty close on that shot, kind of the same distance here. So in fact, what the view we see of Jerry is almost from Elaine's point of view. So they set up a camera right over here to make that shot 3. So you can see how much that camera has jumped around. In fact, they've got 3 different cameras when they do these setups. But if it was a film, you would have 1 camera and you'd be changing that location to film those sequences. Okay, so shot 4. We're back looking at Elaine. So this camera is used again for shot 4. We cut back over here for shot 5, looking at Jerry. Shot 6 is a little further back than what we had here. Or maybe this camera could have been closer. So we're way back here so we can see more of the surroundings. So that would be shot 6. Where we go from there, I'm trying to think now. Yeah, so we had that establishing shot, so we can see both characters from this angle here. We're seeing the corner of the room here as opposed to back here. So where we go from there, we go to a close-up of Elaine, and this is where Elaine starts moving across the screen here, and we see another character shopping in the background. So we cut to a close-up from this far shot. So now we come in much closer. So that's shot 7. So we kind of have 3 ranges of where the camera is. Going to shot 8, we go back to this establishing shot. 7, that's 8, 9, we're back where 7 was. 10, we go further back now because we get both Elaine and Jerry into the shot. So this one was close up for Jerry from her perspective. Now we're seeing both in the shot, so we move that camera back here. So we have shot 10. Going to 11, we're back at this camera. Shot 12, we're back at 10. Where do we go for 13? Yeah, so we're back here for 13. Then we have shot 14, which is back up here. And then we have 15. Where do we go on that one? Yeah, so 15 down here. 16, so we can see we're back and forth on those shots to 17. And then we hit 18, where we are right back to our establishing shot. So we can see that orientation of those 2 characters. Then when we go from there, we're at 19, which now we're in front of the mirror. We're following the characters over. So where Jerry ends up over here, we have camera 19 coming in close. This is where he's got that stabbed in the back. But actually I want to go back. Shot 10 is where, when we're looking over here, this is when we saw Jerry and Elaine change places. So Elaine worked her way over here, and then Jerry ended up over here. So now they switched, because all the way up here, Elaine was on this side, Jerry on this side. Now we switched, and then Jerry comes across, and Elaine is behind him. So we've switched things around. So when Jerry comes over here, the camera goes right up against the wall, so we can see him, and that shot 20. Then we're back and forth, and that camera does make a bit of a move in composition here. So we're still pretty much up close for 21. Then we're back for 22, 23, 24, 25, and then we come way out. So it's really 25 pose 2, but I kind of labeled it 26 because it's a whole new composition of where the camera is. So that camera is out here in the audience picking that up, and that would be shot 26. So you can see all the movement of the camera. It's gone from the center to over here, and from here over to here. But what's really important with this floor plan and figuring out the cameras is thinking whenever you're working out your cinematics and planning your camera moves and such, that they work out in a situation where they are like on a stage. And the idea here is that we imagine that there is a dotted line coming across. And what's happening, you'll notice, is the camera doesn't cross that dotted line. So what that is, and let me write it down here, it is the 180 degree, and I'll write it out here, degree rule. So Google that, check that out, get more explanation of what the 180 degree rule is. And the whole point of the 180 rule is to not cross the axis. So this line is the axis, and what we'll see, and you'll see this time over and over and over, is that the camera never flips over to this side, because that changes the orientation of everything and is confusing to the audience. So you can have the camera anywhere from here all the way over to here, and everywhere in between, close and far away, and it all works. It establishes that left and right. Once you go over here, it flips that orientation from right to left, and it's completely confusing and really messes up an audience. So for clarity, make sure that you're exploring and looking at this rule and applying it. Don't be flipping your characters due to the camera crossing the axis. Okay, so I mean, it's funny. I'd taken animation for years. I was working in the industry, and I had no idea about this rule. It wasn't something that was taught to us. I discovered it. I was on a movie set as an extra. A friend dragged me out. I don't do that anymore. And I remember the director saying, "Okay, let's move the camera here," and the cameraman was saying, "Nope, can't do it." I said, and I'm in the background going, "What? What's that all about?" And the cameraman says, "No, you're crossing the axis." And I went, "What is crossing the axis?" I had no idea. So I had to go find and research and discover what this is. So I'm saving you the trouble by addressing this and making sure you're aware. Very important rule when it comes to storyboarding and working out cinematics. All right, so wrap this one up. Please, if you can work this out, follow this along and compare it to your thumbnail. And submit this as well. I want to make sure you're getting this information. Extremely important.